welcome this afternoon or wherever you may be watching this from. My name is Gerry Mecca, and you're tuned into Quantcast. I'm not sure I'm set on that name quite yet, but Quantcast is a discussion, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, depending on how much interest we get from the video once it gets posted, but particularly about what's going on in North Texas as it relates to quantum computing and maybe even introducing some of you folks to for the first time to what quantum computing is all about. My guest today, couple of dudes that were introduced to me by Sia Yasatornat. You can say that 10 times fast. Sia is a local technologist, and we've collaborated for years, and I mean that a long time. She looks a lot younger than I do. Victor Fishman and Joel Baez, these two folks, they're right on the front lines, and met them recently. Could tell we were immediately well connected for our subjects. You guys all know me as a technologist. I've been involved in IoT, but mostly on the commercial side for Dr. Pepper and for Tropicana and for Datascan and some of the users of the technology. But I thought maybe I'd let Victor and Joel introduce themselves a little bit rather than me telling you what they do. So, Victor, great to have you on. Tell me a little bit about you and not so much about this initiative, just exactly where do you come from and why should we care?
Gerry, thank you so much for having us, and thanks to Sia for putting us together. She's just terrific. One of the things that have always been fond of is helping companies, people, and organizations move forward. And I've been able to do that across my career in pharmaceutical chemistry, in environmental chemistry, working with startups in the Ben Franklin program in Pennsylvania. And I just have enjoyed the opportunity to find ways for people to achieve what they'd like to achieve. And my PhD in chemistry has opened a lot of doors. My PhD is from the University of Texas at Austin, and I've been able to move across fields as a result of having gotten that PhD. And I ultimately wound up at Penn State University, where I was with a group called the Applied Research Lab. We were about 1,200 people in size, and we did about $186 million in a year in science and technology, and that was back in 2013. And my role there was to be at the interface between the university, the lab, and our government and industry partners. And the role that I played for the lab was to understand what would our industry and government partners need, and would the lab be ready to deliver on that need should they be called on to do that. And so that interface has always been very exciting. And for the last 6 years, I was head of the Washington office for the Applied Research Lab. And actually, I would go down to Washington Monday through Friday and come back to State College on the weekend. Judith called one day and said, "I'm going back to Texas. You want to come?" And I said, "Count me in." We're coming. So I retired in 2013. And when we got back to Dallas, I went to work with the University of Texas at Dallas as their Associate Vice President for Applied Research, developed an outward-looking capability, then integrated that into engineering. And when I was done with that, I got a call from actually the Dallas Regional Chamber. And the Dallas Regional Chamber developed the Texas Research Alliance back in 2013. And the objective there was to find out how to fix the problem of all of our regional companies going back to their roots for research and development rather than working with our regional universities. So we started down that path to help solve that problem. And we got many of our companies to recognize that we really do have capability here. The university systems, the Texas University system, the A&M system, there's capability in almost any area you can imagine that will allow them to gain access to resources. And in fact, when I took Toyota, in this case, the University of North Texas, Toyota recognized that UNT had more and better material characterization resources than Toyota had. And that the recommendation was going to be, when you have those kinds of problems, give those folks a call. But in any event, I started down that path with the Texas Research Alliance in 2018. And initially, it was that question of getting our universities connected to our corporates. When I first started that, none of our universities had outward-facing staff. Slowly but surely, over time, they recognized that, well, Victor's only one person to do this. So we now are at a wonderful condition where all of our universities have outward-looking staff, industry-focused. What that allows the Texas Research Alliance to do is to now focus on what are the regional challenges, okay, that the region has to face in order to stay competitive. Okay, so we future-proof our industry through technology partnerships across the Metroplex. And we're doing that, and that's what led us to quantum at the moment. Now, I have to say that 6 years ago when I was talking about artificial intelligence, I was getting the exact same response I'm getting now when I'm talking about quantum. Okay, so I will take credit for what the progress we made in artificial intelligence. Okay,
I'll give it to you.
But by the same token, you know, we're going to do wonderful things in quantum here.
I think so.
Because we have the industry that will put it to use.
Beautiful. So it makes me want to ask questions, but I'm going to let Joel go, and then I'll come back and we'll get to some of those questions.
Well, thanks, Gerry, for having us out here today. And Sia and I go way back. Sia, I worked at Ericsson for many years, 11 years, and Sia worked at HP. And
that's where we met, at HP.
Had a great relationship from that side of it, on that side. So when the opportunity came, that's how kind of got connected for this side of it. But like I mentioned, I was with Ericsson for 11 years in the telecom industry. Decided to take an early retirement and start driving towards my passion. And for the last 30 plus years, I've been in technology, working for Texas Instruments, Texans Credit Union, Nokia mobile phones when they first came to the U.S. and launched mobile phones, and then worked with a company called Qualcomm out of San Diego.
Little company.
And worked and helped acquire a couple of companies that Qualcomm acquired over the years, and then decided to take a leave and go start my own oil and gas IoT company, and did that for about a year, and then decided to get back into corporate, and that's when I joined Ericsson. My whole career has been around driving innovation, new technologies, bringing them to market. At Texas Instruments / Texans Credit Union in the financial side, I helped launch some of the early web banking experiences that we did. People were using to bank on their PCs. And then left there and went to Nokia and brought in mobile phones and all the mobile phone applications, things like NFC, RFID, all those kinds of applications from that side of it, and helped launch what people, and you referred to it early on about IoT, what it was before IoT was called machine to machine, and it wasn't a rock band. It was actually machine to machine. And at Nokia, we launched the first GSM module and brought it to market. And then we brought all the service providers together to help launch IoT, and that's what it is today. So I've got the background in bringing technology to market from that aspect of it. And
so how did you guys meet?
That's interesting. So as part of that, I sit on the executive board for Tech Titans.
Okay.
And I chair a group of the innovation committee, and Victor is part of Tech Titans too.
Okay.
And was sitting on the same committee with me, and he was part of our support people and supporting the innovation committee, and that's how we kind of talk.
That makes sense.
When I decided to take a leave and retire, Victor picked up the phone and said, "You're not going to Home Depot."
That's Home Depot reference.
Well, I actually did do a little bit of that. Yeah. Between Home Depot and Lowe's, I've been remodeling a lake house. And so in the time of that and doing that in this has been what I've been doing.
Well, I'm glad you could exercise both passions.
Yeah.
Very interesting connection. And Tech Titans, huge organization's been around forever. I love what they're now doing, much more visible than they had been for years. So new managing director, executive director. So big things coming there too. So I hate to go down to the fourth grade level here, and that's really not, that's not intended to be an insult. I had lunch today with a really good friend who's been in technology for years, and he asked me to take him through what's quantum mechanics, what are these little things? Why can it do this? And so I'm not going to spoil it. Tell the audience, what is quantum to you?
One of the ways to think about quantum is the four areas where we actually think about quantum technology. So we have quantum security, we have quantum computing, we have quantum communications, and quantum sensing. And all of those, in the strictest sense, are built on quantum phenomena. And if you think about the area that we're really focusing on most, that's quantum computing.
Sure.
And there's a lot you can say about the details there, but I would suggest that you just think of it as extreme computing. So it's going to be faster than anything you can imagine. And one of the reasons why it's going to be so helpful to what we're trying to do in terms of solving problems in healthcare, in logistics, in manufacturing, you name it, is that the quantum computers in combination with the classical computers, which we call hybrid computing, will be able to solve those problems in minutes that it will take our classical computers years to do. So I'm fond of saying, not to dodge your question, but I'm fond of saying that I have a 2019 automobile. I haven't lifted the hood once, and it continues to run. And I think if you want to think about quantum computing, you should think of it that way.
That's a good way of looking at it. Everybody wants to talk about bits and bytes and ones and zeros, and trying to explain the quantum computing aspect, why it's capable of doing these complex, years-long processes, producing a new drug, figuring out a new combination. I'm throwing out as sort of like the collective, building a computer that did something. I always then had to have another computer that handled the video, and another one that kind of dealt with the audio, and then maybe a buffer system that took things off from the computer that was mundane. And I could now, because of this capability, this new technology, those things all happen in the same instance, if not in the same instant, not instance. And I think that's still hard for folks to grasp, but also, there are limitations. Like, part of the reason you can plug your computer at your house in and do a lot of things that you think are amazing, it's going to take a lot of power, and a lot of smarts, and a lot of capability and energy to make quantum do all the things we want it to do. And what a better place than Texas for that. I mean, energy, Texas. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking,
well, you got all the data centers
sure,
coming in that are in this area too. And I think a lot of the consumers and people out there that are not real techie out there understand a little bit about how AI kind of operates and works and stuff. They get that from that aspect of it. And AI is really kind of you can visualize it as an accelerator. And then quantum is like the breakthrough engine that makes it happen.
Agreed.
Side of it.
Agreed.
One of the ways I might be able to help is to talk a little bit about the difference between bits and qubits.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in our classical computers, we have ones and zeros, and we put them together and we get bits. And if you put two bits together, you now have 2 bits. Okay. If you put 4 bits together, you now have 4 bits. Qubits.
Isn't that a cheer? 2 bits, 4. Sorry. Okay. Continue.
If you put qubits together, okay, they scale more than exponentially. So by way of example, when I say scale more than exponentially, that's in computing power.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take a look at today's high-end laptops,
Mm-hmm.
they have the compute power of about 30 qubits in a quantum computer. In terms of the scaling, if you go to a 60-qubit computer, you now have more compute power than all of the high-performance computers on Earth. So the scaling is extraordinary. And classical bits, ones and zeros, qubits are vector focused, and you can have an infinite number of states in a very small, low energy environment. And putting all those together, okay, gives you an infinite almost opportunity for different states that you can monitor and use for computing.
A great way of putting it. I'm positive I'll steal this chunk of the video for a future mini reference to explaining it to folks. So I do think it's funny. It's almost like when two cellular division, how it just kind of multiplies on itself far more than the individual, and that helps, I think, just about anybody kind of grasp it if they can make those connections. Not a lot of people even know bits and bytes, to be honest with you. Yeah. In fact, the consumerization of computing has sort of made it like everybody thinks they're a computer expert because they can turn on a box and put a click in something.
Your computer is now, people view it as the AI.
That's right.
That's all I know. I mean, you hand it to, I have friends that are not in technology, and you ask them a question, and the first thing they do is they go to their phone or their iPad, and they don't realize that it's a computer. They're just, and where that information's coming from.
So what I haven't shared and you haven't shared, and I'm going to go ahead and just put it out there, you're now the chairman of this initiative for quantum computing in Texas, as appointed by the governor. Congratulations on that. I didn't even know such a thing existed. I'm happy that you're here in North Texas, but explain a little bit more about how that come about.
The state of Texas recognizes that quantum is going to be incredibly important to the Texas economy. That extreme computing will help all of our industry verticals stay competitive. Last session, sponsored by Gino Capriglione, and Tam Hunter, they passed HB 4751, which is the Texas Quantum Initiative. And in the Texas Quantum Initiative is called out the Texas Quantum Initiative Advisory Committee.
Okay.
And that is the committee that I was selected by Governor Abbott to sit on. And my colleagues on that committee
punished you. Sorry.
took one look at their schedules and said he should do it.
Yeah.
So Victor should do that.
I'm sure.
So that's how I became the chair of that committee. And now our job is to develop a strategic plan for the state of Texas in terms of meeting the objectives of HB 4751. And largely that has to do with what's necessary to integrate quantum into the Texas economy. So there's workforce, there's research, there's a host of activity and data collection that you have to do in order to know how can the state help our industries go forward, especially in the quantum arena.
Joel, advising him in this capacity, can explain that a little bit more.
That's way belong.
Yeah.
No, so
he seems like he's pretty capable.
He's very capable, and he's got the PhD background from all that side of it, and working with the different municipalities and stuff. Victor's got a lot of experience in that side of it and what he's been doing.
Probably opens a door or two.
I've been more focused on advising around building the ecosystem. How do we get the word out?
Yeah.
What do we do here? Helping them build the blueprint for that side of it. Just from my own business experience and bringing it back into this side of it, that aspect of it.
You said something. I said I was going to ask you this question later, and I want to come back to it. And it puzzled me, particularly because of A&M in Texas. And maybe it's just A&M and Texas are the ones that most people think about from the state who would be research go-tos. But businesses here, they're still pinging MIT. They're still going to Harvard. They're not coming to UT Dallas. Well, maybe they will since you've been there, but how did that happen? First of all, is it because they all transferred from the Northeast and they come here and they just kept their connections, or it just seems so logical that they would pick local universities to join in?
You really hit the nail on the head in the sense that, like many of us, they go back to their roots. Okay, and many of the roots of these major corporations are in the Northeast or in the Midwest or even sometimes now on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And so they've built ecosystems there to help them achieve the extraordinary progress that they have made. Okay. And when they make the decision, the financial or driven or workforce driven decision to move to Texas, okay, they still have those networks. And those networks are very, very flexible, if you will, so they can stay in touch. And COVID taught us that we have lots of ways to get in touch with each other.
Sure.
And so under those circumstances, they really haven't had the need to look at our local universities. So what we've tried to do over the course of time is to say to them, one of these days, you're going to really need something tomorrow.
Quick. Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to get it out of California or Arizona or New York. So you really should understand the capability that you have here. And almost all of our companies have said, we really should take a look at that. And so they have begun that process. And so it's a long walk because it's all about relationships. And the companies have to understand and the faculty have to understand, what are we really trying to accomplish? Are we on the same page? Okay. And can we go down to meet the objective that we're all thinking about? And we're making a lot of progress.
It sounds that way, albeit not in engineering. My experience at UT Dallas has been since 2024 on the capstone senior project on the Naveen Jindal School of Business, but in technology. And I have found, and this is the part that maybe they should also know in corporations, the kids are brilliant. Like, I'm blown away. And so I remember when I first was offered the opportunity to come do a capstone class, a guy named Charles Hassman, who unfortunately has passed away, but he was heading up like a retail initiative there. And he just said, you got to come over here. You won't believe these kids. And I just thought, well, UT Dallas, a bunch of Richardson kids running around, can't get into another school. Was I wrong? The standard is so much higher. So I'm not surprised that you see the opportunity. I just, I guess that's maybe where you kind of come in with structure and strategy to get, how do you
to
get
answer
these?
your question?
Yeah.
UTD has more merit scholarship participants than some of the bigger universities in Texas
Amazing.
right now.
And I know that now.
Yeah.
And they're still students and kids. So, even after we finished with our end of semester activities, they still went over and had pizza at the local joint and had a beer or two. I just had a completely prejudiced, if you will, view of what my sister graduated from UT Dallas in, I want to say 95. And we used to call it the University of TI because it seemed like that's all it was.
Well, back then it was only a senior level university.
That's probably true.
Junior, senior, level and graduate.
So you talked about your background. You talked about quantum. We talked about how this is shaping up. What resources are you getting in North Texas to really make this happen? I mean, the two of you guys are out there, obviously, but what else is going on?
We're blessed by visionary industrial partners, visionary university partners. And while there may not yet be money on the table, there's a tremendous amount of elbow grease and shoulder power and collaboration.
They can see it.
That's right. Yeah. So one of the things that I would point to as an example of this is the Texas Quantum Summit. So
when's that?
The first Texas Quantum Summit was hosted at Texas A&M University last summer. And 8 universities in Texas, across Texas, came together in order to bring together all of the universities and as many companies as they could to talk about quantum, where we were, what was needed, and what they were all doing. So sharing so that they could all collaborate. That's a key element for all of our universities across the state. We now have the second summit coming this August 13th and 14th at UT Dallas. And those same 8 universities, I think maybe perhaps 9 now, are working together in order to ensure that across the state, each of our universities and more of our companies understand the kind of research that's going on. And the companies can deliver to those universities the insight that they have in terms of what they're likely to need. So that's an example of how this comes together. And Texas A&M funded that first activity. UT Dallas is funding this activity. Okay, so it's all coming out of our hide, if you will, in order to make this happen. Now, HB 4751 has posited the Qubit Fund. It's QUBIT, that's an acronym. Hopefully this coming session, the legislature will put money in the Qubit Fund in the same way they put money in the Space Commission, in the same way they put money in the Texas Innovation Fund for semiconductors, okay? And we'll now have a basis on which to help match fund these programs in order to continue to move Texas forward. Now, when it comes to those kinds of funding programs, we're a little bit behind New York and Colorado and Maryland and New Mexico, who have put a tremendous amount of money into their quantum network and infrastructure. The advantage that we have is lessons learned.
Sure, you get to see what they've done, what didn't work.
And how to really be efficient in terms of what our advantages are, so that we can tune our approach to be Texas specific and give us the bump that we need in order to make the contribution that we need.
That's, again, every investor wants to see their investments pay off, and they don't like to be the bleeding edger, and having that experience that's just phenomenal. Do I get a ticket to this quantum thing, or is it like very private? I mean, what's the?
No, I think the registration is still open. I think there's a registration fee, but if you go to the University of Texas at Dallas and look up the Second Quantum Summit, find that website and register, you'll be able to attend.
That's cool. And I know the semester kicks off that week too. So I'm going to be teaching again. So I'll be over there. Very cool. This great thing happening in Texas. We have these great lessons learned from the other states that have jumped out ahead. Ahead doesn't mean they win, but ahead means it's moving and we get to learn lessons. So maybe something specific that you could share that's already come out of that knowledge of what they're doing, what would be something? What's the first thing that we think, Texas, you guys think we need to be doing?
Well, clearly the advantage that Texas has is the industry verticals that power our economy. And so when we take a look at New York and we take a look at Illinois and even Colorado and New Mexico, okay, what we recognize is that they are largely focused on the science and technology of quantum. So when they win, we win.
Sure.
And the reason is because we're going to put what they develop to work. Texas is going to take all of that quantum technology and integrate it into our workflows for our industry verticals, okay, to be able to move our economy forward faster than any other region can. And we have a history of doing that, and especially artificial intelligence is another example of that.
I think of Texas as being energy, logistics,
right?
You got defense, you got energy, you got
healthcare, you got finance.
Okay, so those are the obvious
key
verticals,
right?
And then we have the huge technology sector here too.
So that brings me to something we talked about on the phone when we first met, and let's just call it the Dallas Exodus opportunity. Is that something you feel comfortable talking about as far as where a center?
Very early conversations on what we're talking there. But I mean,
it's not a bad thing.
Victor and I have had conversations. We're about to kind of kick off some stuff to see what happens on that side of it and talk to some other players in the Dallas area.
Can't imagine the city manager isn't interested in this kind of conversation.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, you've got the structure of 18-2, who was downtown, who's moving out to Plano.
It's like plug and play.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
you've got all the financial institutions that are down here too that are going to utilize this area, and the education universities.
It just feels like a lot of, the triangulation's happening. You've got this initiative, this availability, and this demand.
And you look at it back back in the day, and I'm dating myself probably, but it's back like when Richardson kicked off with calling themselves the telecom corridor
Correct.
on that area. Back then you had Nortel, MCI, Samsung, Verizon, all these guys out there, and that's what kicked off the telecom sector from that side. And Richardson was across the North America was known in the world was known as the telecom corridor.
Well,
from that side of
my hope would, of course, would be Dallas would be the quantum corridor, but more importantly, that we would sustain for as long as it takes. I know it's a lot of technology that's out there. We also talked about this. I remember joining Dr. Pepper, and RFID was going to change the world. And we're still struggling with it. Physics issues, et cetera, et cetera. But at one point, I thought we were going to get booted out of Walmart if we didn't at least put some initiative together around at least pallets of boxed product, because looking through that's right. Not that we're all predicting a little crystal ball, but this feels like a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. It's an opportunity for Dallas, Richardson, Plano, Frisco, this whole North Texas to pull the synergies together and make something happen.
Yeah, it's like, can't we all?
And all the big companies are in this area now.
For sure. Well, so I also thought about, let's pretend, and I'm going to say, Victor, I hope we're all here in 10 years and that AI robots haven't taken over and, doing everything for us. But where do you see this in 10 years? Do you have a view for what would be success?
Success will be when all of our companies who have an option to enhance their workflows with hybrid quantum are using it and delivering it. I think some of our consulting companies say that the first movers will gain 90% of the advantage, which is extraordinary. Yeah. And what that means is you really do have to think about how to start integrating quantum into your workflows in no matter what industry vertical you're in. Now, we haven't talked much about security.
Yeah.
Okay. But security is really the on-ramp for a lot of our corporations. So we know that when a fully functional quantum computer is on board and has enough stable qubits, it's going to break our current encryptions in a flash. So we've got to develop strategies to prevent that from happening if we want to protect the data that we have, if all of our companies want to do that. Now, we're very fortunate because the federal government has had the National Institute of Standards and Technology develop a set of algorithms that companies today can implement, to help protect their data. Once we continue to make more progress, we'll bypass those algorithms and use quantum key encryption. And when we have quantum key encryption, there will be no opportunity to bother with someone else's data without them knowing about it.
That's right. It's funny. Every time I think of something like this, particularly in the security space, it's either very good good doers or very bad doers that are spending all the money. We just have to be ahead of all that. And that's like a mandate. No matter what, I do get why it's an on-ramp. It's the no-brainer, again, back to that application, if you will, that makes so much sense to be ahead of. And again, you made a comment, which I thought was kind of interesting. If they care to protect their data, which I thought was, why did you say it that way? I'm just curious.
The reason I say that is because there's going to be a fair amount of effort associated with identifying the data and the data structure that you need to protect.
Right.
And there will be some of your data where you will say, well, that's okay. This data is older than 10 years old, or this data no longer has value to us, so we're not really going to bother with that. But the data that we have here, is really going to be important to us, and so we're going to figure out how to protect that. And the nice thing about it is that we already have roadmaps that share with companies what the steps are for them to go through to do this.
Yeah. Well, look, this has been amazing. And I just love the fact that we're at the forefront of this here in North Texas. I've never been a sit back on my laurels type guy. I want to stay on top of quantum. You know, AI is a yawner to me now. I'm sorry. I know everybody else is, you know, I shouldn't say, it's just, I remember going to my first NVIDIA course on image identification. Had to have been 2016, 2017. And to have people now here almost 10 years later saying, you know, have you done? And I'm like, you know, big whoop. I believe quantum is where I'd want to be. In fact, in my classes, when kids are asking me, oh, the jobs are going away, I'm like, you're barking up the wrong tree. Don't try to be, I'm not saying you shouldn't be a data scientist. I'm not saying there isn't still human validation and all the other things that go with this. But if you really want to know my view, quantum is the way to go. And that's just from what I read, the few folks that I've come to know, folks like you guys that just, you know, just make me feel, I don't have to be right, but I like to be right. And I feel like this is definitely.
You hit on a good point. I mean, that's what we're doing is we're trying to educate people a little bit more, organizations, the cities, the universities on what quantum is and what they need to be doing and thinking of.
Now, if I could make just a comment about the intersection between quantum and AI.
Yes.
Quantum and AI will eventually be joined at the hip or the qubit. So under those circumstances, AI is now helping to develop the algorithms to program quantum computers. Okay. Quantum computers are now delivering the compute that allows AI to, in a flash, to solve a problem that you've given it. So that intersection is going to be stronger and stronger as we go forward. Now, AI is AI, software. Quantum is quantum, software and hardware. And the fact that it's software and hardware is what makes it a little bit tougher for companies to walk down that path without a guide, if you will. So we have developed the North Texas Quantum Innovation Blueprint.
Okay.
And that is a methodology and approach for all of our companies across North Texas on how to begin to embrace quantum for your organization. Okay. And we've got in the blueprint rubric that will help you identify a problem that should be a quantum problem, an approach to doing a use case to test all of that out, okay, and the tools that'll be necessary for that. And so we're very happy to share that. And in fact,
September 9th.
Joel has really been helping. Joel's a strategic thinker, and he has focused on the idea that we need to get our companies who are interested and know that they have a quantum challenge coming to get together on
September 9th.
Wednesday, September 9th. Okay. Quantum for the C-suite. So Joel has been incredibly insightful in supporting and setting up the Quantum for the C-suite event. September 9th at the Park City Club in the evening from 5:30 to 8 o'clock. And CEOs and their senior technical folks who really are interested in knowing how they can approach quantum and how it will be helpful to them will have the opportunity to sit with quantum companies who are building these machines, companies that are now on their journey to integrate quantum into their workflow. They'll be able to understand the intersection between quantum and artificial intelligence and how that is going to help them move down the field. So we're really excited about this opportunity, and we're really trying to get 2 executives from companies from our industry verticals here in North Texas. So we've got aerospace and defense, and we have logistics, and we have finance, and we have healthcare, and we have education, and all of those and manufacturing. So we're really interested in all of those companies who say, I really would like to know what is it that I'm going to have to think about in order to get the what I call the existential advantage that quantum is going to deliver for my industry and my industry vertical. And that will be September 9th, Wednesday, September 9th at the Park City Club from 7:30 to 8 o'clock. Just reach out to Victor Fishman or Joel Buys, and we'll get you registered in order to attend that. And we're looking forward to having you.
If I were a CEO and I was coming for this, that would be a phenomenal takeaway. Who are some of the companies that are going to actually be there presenting to these CEOs?
They are going to be really insightful. So we're going to have IBM, who's working across the range of technologies in quantum and quantum applications. We're going to have IonQ, which is one of the publicly traded quantum communication companies. We're going to have Orca Technologies, Orca Computing, okay, which makes a photonic quantum analyzer that is, you can integrate that into any data center and plug it into a 110 socket. Okay, so we're going to have a lot of those folks, and we're going to have experts on AI and quantum and the interface there, so that you'll really understand how it is that if this AI that you're struggling with now is going to be much easier to use once you begin walking down the quantum path. The nice thing about the way Joel has planned quantum for the C-suite is that no matter where your CEO sits in terms of his technical knowledge, he will come away with the insight necessary for his organization and the pathway that they should begin to think about in order to gain the advantages from quantum technology and quantum computing.